areas, don't worry, buddy. Seriously, though. Alright, welcome back to another game. And for those of you who may not be familiar, Lordaeron the Foremath is a mass war map set in the Warcraft 3 engine. It is 12 players, and it allows each of these players to take factions just before the events of the Third War. This means that you have two large teams facing each other, good and evil. However, the game is far more complicated than that. Let's go ahead and describe the basics of how you'll be earning to make the armies to fight your enemies. First of all, gold is earned through control points. Control points are these little circles on the ground, and depending on holding it, they give you a certain amount of money. Lumber is you will find yourself often dealing with the lack of trees as you harvest out several different areas and slowly destroy the world in the pursuit of war. One of the few exceptions, the Ecodome here, located in Outland. This will constantly regenerate this small co-ops of trees and allow you to infinitely harvest lumber from there. Lumber can be traded for gold, and gold can be traded for lumber, back and forth. Lumber is a little bit easier to access for most races. However, there are two races in specific that have access to large amounts of gold. Now, this can either be gained through events or through gold mines scattered throughout the map. Dwarves are the only race that can mine gold mines, and 3 of them exist throughout the map. One is ridiculous. Back again. Alright. Starting off, we have Amaranth, controlling the Highborn. Anasterian Sunstrider and Lordaeron are going to be helping the North Alliance fight evil. Next up, we have Al Big in the Blue Trunks, controlling the Undead. He is, of course, on evil team. He'll start out with a Nubrak in Northrend. His job is to conquer all of the races and all of the things here, bring them to the Undead side, and then help evil by assaulting Lordaeron. His ally is Rav C in the Grey Trunks, the early warning system for the undead. Actually, I guess it's more of a symptom before the actual illness takes you down. But the Cult of the Damned is sent into Lordaeron early on, and they have to defend Scholomance as long as they can. Their job is to wear out and exhaust the Alliance before the undead lead the actual invasion of Lordaeron. Now, it's not to say that they always win, but the longer they hold on to House of Barav or whatever base they start off with, one of 3 potential randoms that they can have, the more gold and lumber they will receive. Now, their enemies, of course, are going to be and that army is led by Kel'Thuzad. For now, several heroes will join the armies of each player, I guess. Several heroes will join the armies of each player as time goes on. Lord Poet in the Dark Green Trunks has Arthas, Lord Othmar Garethos, and Prince Galen Trollbane. All 3 of these heroes will be gathering together to try to assault this undead menace that scourges the land. Next up, in the north, we still have Maxstroke, the Mages of Dalaran. In the Purple Trunks, he has Antonius and Jaina Proudmoore. Having recently heard about the issues, they'll be heading up to help our ally. They are a mostly caster-based race, as you can imagine. A lot of these races follow what you might think of. The Undead are used for mass. The Cult of the Damned mostly has summoned units in it. The Undead are actually a little bit more tanky than the Cult of the Damned, but not quite as numerous. Maxstroke is a caster, and Dark Green, of course, is the tank of the world. Now we already have a little bit of aggression happening here. Farstrider Lodge going down very early on to our player Silence X. Why don't we go ahead and talk about him while we're here. Silence X in the Brown Trunks, controlling the Dragonmaw clan. Nekrosh Skullcrusher and Morgor will be in charge of taking over the south and putting a little bit of pressure on not only elves, but their dwarven allies in the south. Speaking of the dwarves, in the Yellow Trunks, the dwarves have cleared out most of the creeps in the south, solidified their control over Ironforge, and taken over Gnomeregan. This will allow them to create the Skybreaker. The Skybreaker is a flying air superiority unit, and in addition to his griffins, basically makes it impossible to contest yellow in the air for most of these other races. Not completely impossible, if enough of them get there. I'll tell you what, you get enough nether dragons and chromatic drakes in the air, you can do some work. Now, As we mentioned, the elves were getting their butts kicked down south by the Dragonmaw clan, but let's go ahead and here focus in Outland. This is one of the events that we never actually got to see play out in the games, and I always find fascinating to watch, which is the assault on the Draenei by the forces of the orcs and the demons in Outland, realizing that they need to finish off the last bastion of holy light in Outland before they can actually move on and do anything. The Draenei are an interesting race, and actually only playable at the very beginning and the very end of the game for our light blue player. The Elec warriors that they sport are, in fact, one of the strongest melee units in the game. They're expensive at 100 gold each, but you can see their effectiveness. 13 armor, huge amounts of damage, and unbelievable reserves of health. Now, Scavor, let's go ahead and talk about what his strategy is going to consist of and what he can do to defend against this inevitable push. He possesses 2 mana-charged crystals in his base. Each one has spells that allow him to create an invulnerability globe, summon additional units, so it is important to summon those units, put them on the front line, and when you're feeling heavily pressed by the enemy, make sure that you retreat into the invulnerability globe of 1, circle around by going through up here. The Legion will be hard-pressed by good. And a wonderful strategy here. I like what Rapsi's doing. We didn't really talk about it though. Scavor is controlling the light blue. He also has some importance on the undead, but you can imagine it's very difficult for a single player to actually manage to hold a base and assault a base at the same time when you have a one-time death hero. Now that's something important to remember about this game, is that many heroes in the game are one and done. One of those is Kel'Thuzad. Should Kel'Thuzad die, he becomes a ghost. He's not actually technically one and done, he's a little bit in the gray zone there. Now, let's point out what Gray is doing appropriately here. He has his meat wagons placed in the back right corner. They're still able to launch plague barrels and do damage here. I'd like to see the siege come up just a little bit more. Slow this down to half speed so we can see what's going on. Oathmar Garethos leading the charge with Galen Trollbane. Important to back it up. It's going to be difficult to keep them alive, as Gray, in addition to having an unbelievable amount of summons, my favorite ones back here, by the way, Plague Cauldron, summoning continual zombies, but they also have your regular Necromancer abilities, such as Curse and Cripple. Gotta be a little bit careful. And in addition to that, his mounted acolytes, Dalaran Exiles I should say, can cast a Plague Shield, much like Fire Shield, but just with a slightly different. Defensive Maru and the Draenei's last hold against evil, which never seems to go that well. Every time I'm evil, we lose. That may say something more about me than the fight itself. Now, we can talk about what each side has to offer. Shadow Seers can drop rune traps on the ground in addition to making copies. They have regular heroes, and then your Exodari are just kind of Draenei archers. Maru has a number of AoE spells and a Divine Shield, but it's really the Dark Horde army that we need to talk about right now. Witchywa can absorb those runes and any spells that the Draenei cast on themselves using Nether Dragons absorb magic. Green has a number of spells that make this fight easier for evil as well. There's the Maru AoE going on, and there it is. Grandmaster Vorpal activating Karabun, the staff. It grants him 250 mana capacity and also an arcane shielding spell that makes everything underneath it invulnerable. This can be used to excellent effect depending on your position in the fight. And the focus on Maru is going down, and the Draenei are gone. Scavor is about to cast his retreat on Vindicator Marad. It's a spell that he has that allows him to leave and sort of abandon his post. Now, this is great for the evil team, because they're about to get to kill a lot of these Elec warriors, and Draenei that were left behind, for some reason they were not brought with them. And fare thee well, Draenei. Grandmaster Vorpal and Terran Gorfine leading the Shadow Council. They're, of course, a heavily caster-based race. Necrolytes and Warlocks. Necrolytes, they summon undead, they increase your unit's armor. No, that's not it. They summon undead, they silence you, and they do another thing, which I'm forgetting at the moment. Beautiful.
Our Outland town is being attacked.
Alright, so, and the Draenei have been completely driven out of Tempest Keep. The failure of the Draenei up the portal. Back to the fight up here in Scholomance. Holy crap. See, now, our High Elven player is mentioning that this is an unconventional move, and he's right. The Dragonmaw have opted, instead of fighting down south against Yellow and the Dwarves, to head up north and try to help out Scholomance. They are not going to allow their allies to die easily. Now, that was a smart move, taking out the Lordaeron tower that purges and slows nearby enemy units. That is perhaps Purple's most valuable contribution to most fights, is that arcane disruption tower. Let's go ahead and get it right name of it so that I just don't keep... Arcane shield generator. Oh, damages summoned units, purges and slows everything else, and you will often see enemy evil armies just keep walking through it. They're like, well, I'm sorry, is this an important thing that I shouldn't be running over right now? Is this absolutely wrecking my assault? And it's possible if you have Jaina meet a elven priest that they will have that little interaction, and it offers small rewards for doing things like that, for having actual things that happen. Let's get back into this fight. Dragon Mob versus the majority of Northern Lordaeron. This continues to be a 6v6 fight. It's going to be hard to cast. Early upgrades look like Dark Green investing as much as he can into his defense. 3 upgrades into his defense and 1 into his attack. Should be the opposite for our green player. And it's a little tough to watch them all run through that Plague Cloud, knowing that, well, elves don't have that much health, and even a Plague Cloud can make a difference. Dwarves now flanking the Dragon Mob clan. And I guess the dwarves are like, well, if you're not going to be there, we're going to come up here and help you. The only problem with that is it leaves Dun Algaz nearly undefended. Only a few units from Yup Yup, and I'm hoping Dark Green 1-1 upgrades for our Tingle player, and 3-0 into his magic attack for our Green Shadow Council player. Mostly focusing on his caster's damage, and no upgrades. Okay, this is odd. He's upgraded his Necrolite to really act like just this nightmare that they can't get rid of. I like what I'm seeing, which is some dispels from our high elf player up here, trying to get rid of the Plague Cauldrons and other summoned units, but you can see the undead just keep sending forward endless waves of zombies and casting plague shields on this army, slowly dealing damage that they have to spend mana on repairing and then don't have the mana to actually cast offensive spells. Alright, this is an interesting choice. Silence. I'm gonna go eat on you, boy. Really? Ooh, careful there. Once yellow brackets in your casters with his border teams, it's a really bad situation. Now, like this, our yellow dwarven player is going for, I should probably just call him Yup Yup. Yup Yup, the dwarves, are going for a decent across-the-board upgrade system, getting 2 into their attack, 2 into their defense, and sticking at that. A lot of times you'll see them try to act mostly as a support race, which in other games is true. But in this game, dwarves really are an all-around jack-of-all-trades kind of race. They have wonderful air, good tanks, awesome ranged units, lots of siege. So it's important to keep that in mind and use it appropriately.
Now, I think we're about to see the launching of the plague, and Kermit the Frog here wants to tell you that this is not going to go well.
Which is Jorlorn and our dark green player Lordaeron trying to defend against this new push. Now, you will notice that Lordaeron has built a few extra guard towers. He's put himself in a nice position where he can block the entrance and try to hold on there. Let's check the upgrade differential. 1-3 on our dark green player, and 2-4. Ooh, alright, 2-4 into his ranged from our undead player, 0-4 on his melee. But that's okay. Nerubian guards don't need to do a lot of damage. They just need to soak it up. They are the second strongest tanks in the game, straight ahead of Abominations and right behind those Eliks. Pressed up against a rock and a hard place, and you figure out which one is the rock and which one is the hard place. Elves do not tend to be hard. They're very soft, but they're like rock. Chevy. Alright, and cheving him outside of the gate. Hey, get out of here. We don't want you in here. Just slowly doing it. This is actually not the best. Here's what bothers me. Now let's go ahead and take a minute here, just discuss general strategies. I like a Nubrak on this right side with just a few units. But what I really don't like about this undead army right now is that one of his biggest potential damage dealers, which are these meat wagons. They're going to inflict plague, they do huge splash damage, they're siege. They're not hitting the damn gate, they're hitting units near the gate, which is also hitting his own units. He either needs to attack the fortified guard towers defending the base, attack the gate, or bring those meat wagons over here and start wrecking the high elven archers. doesn't do that soon. Nubrak's about to see why, well, sometimes Ranger Corps characters just spam archers. Tries to burrow, but it's not quite fast enough. Lordaeron nearly suffers the same fate as Nubrak, but manages to run away in time. Garethos on the front lines doing his job, tanking. Looks like the elves are... Oh my god. Okay, so Dragon Maw Clan and the Cults of the Damned flank the elves, and now High Elves have to get the hell out of Dodge. Jorlorn, where did you go, buddy? He retreated as well. Oh, he's retreating up north. A running battle just north of the lake at Capital City. This is terrible. Well, there goes the Ranger Corps, forced into retreat. Aw, Jorlorn's complaining. Jorlorn, you have Sylvanas on your team. Killing her adds another team member to evil. It's an absolutely good idea. And also, it's the only thing Silence is good at. So you're not wrong, but it's totally applicable in this case. It's a good idea. Now, Lordaeron is finally managing to push back the undead from their gates. True, he's lost a couple of his fortified towers, and it looks like the gate has suffered significantly, because once this city maybe falls, you really don't want them streaming in through your orb of translocation straight into Quel'Thalas. Now, Antonidas and the Mages of Dalaran, using their mystic power, have teleported into Capital Palace. This is one of the advantages of being purple. There's a few races that are extremely mobile. Shadow Council, Burning Legion, Dalaran. Those three can essentially teleport all over the map, putting out fires for their allies or helping with defenses. Alright, and the battle for Anderhall begins, the Dwarves versus the Dragon Maw. The Dwarves are angry at losing their ancestral lands. Let's check the upgrades. 1-3 from our Silence player. So more into his defense than his attack, continuing to try to focus on Falstad, using his nets to drag him down out of the air. His heal's going down, and that heal's coming from King Magni, by the way, who has Holy Light. Very well microed there. King Magni needs to be careful because he is a one-and-done kind of hero now that Ironforge is dead. And he doesn't want to end up being forced. Oh, yes. Very well done. Guillotine. Bomb, baby, bomb, bomb, baby. And a single Death Knight now going down to the Paladins. I bet that felt good, taking out the old... Actually, I mean, that is kind of poetic justice, isn't it? Paladins taking out the Death Knights. They used to be Silverhand Clerics, and now old Orcish Shamans are wearing their bodies. Well, they're Orcish Warlocks. The Alliance does not want to push through. I mean, they do. The Alliance clearly wants to push through here, and Lord Poet is using Dalen Proudmoore's Spirit Link ability to wonderful effect. If he can actually get his units on the front line and open up the... Oh, fuck that. Alright, let's go ahead and not have that many units on screen at one time. And here comes the big conflict. The Dwarves are fucking up the choke point. Everyone's sitting in the choke point. The Alliance is going to be in a horrible position if the Orcs are strong enough to push right now. They're going to have a great advantage. Oh my god, guys, get out of the choke point. Run, run, run. Alright, Garethos is through. Some Dwarves are getting through. Come on, Lordaeron Captains, get the hell out of there. You do not want to be on the front line when that evil army starts hitting that. Alright, now what they've done here is they've lured the enemy in, and now they can start attacking it. This will favor the Alliance, as the Dwarves still have all of their mortar teams. Griffin Riders are doing AoE damage, and while Proto-Drakes are strong and have a multi-shot attack, it is a limited multi-shot attack, and with the way units stack up in this game, you can see, there it is right there, you see that? You see this little scroll? Look at that squish. If they just keep casting Dispels and AoEs, the Alliance is going to be just fine. And... aw, they lost the siege tower at Dungarok. That would have helped a lot. This is another one, much like Dun Algaz, that has a dwarven tower on it. However, it looks like the cannon was destroyed, probably by these nether dragons. Alright, Alliance, don't back up. I know the dwarves are looking a little bit iffy, but you don't let them in too much. It's okay to let evil in a little bit. You can let them in a little bit. But as soon as they're through, you have to crush back in on top of it and make sure that you maintain the better concave. Don't run away. Don't let too much of the army get in. What are you doing, Yup? Oh my god, I was talking out of my butt. This is a terrible situation, isn't it? I think we're going to go ahead and call this part 1. Alright. Dwarves get stunned. A nice move there. The Dalaran mages arrived to try to help this out. The undead flanked the Sunwell, trying to launch an attack on it while they were distracted by Legion down south. Now, the dwarves leaving is an interesting choice because Airy Peak is their responsibility. Green and Dark Green and the rest of them don't really have anything to care about here, so they're not going to stay. They're going to run away. Jorlorn, tell me. Oh, they're all running all the way up north. No, they have it. They're fine. Look at this. Between Dalaran and the dwarves, this is going down. Interesting choice to call out the Sunwell Guardians, by the way, as the Sunwell was not even really in danger. In order to make the Sunwell vulnerable, you need to take out several runestones in Quel'Thalas, as well as Quel'Thalas itself. We lost as dwarves. He's kind of giving up a little bit easy, but yeah, it's not looking good. Activating the spell on Airy Peak, which will create thunderclouds that will create lightning. Lightning and the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Thunder. Still not enough. Look at this. I fucking told you it happens. Look at all these orcs like, well, I guess we'll just attack the base and ignore the fact that the arcane shield generator is doing damage and slowing us all down. It's amazing how often they do this, and just let them exist. Just let them exist. However, Airy Peak is truly dead and gone. There are no two ways about this, man. Alright, we're going to go ahead and pause this one right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in a little bit. This has been part 1. Airy Peak is going to fall. The Sunwell has been successfully defended, but now the Alliance doesn't have the advantage of a great choke point. They have to deal with 2 choke points now and hope that the Legion and the Undead splitting apart is going to be enough to allow them to get the advantage in this game. Oh, that's right. Legion and Undead have split ways. Nubarak, Professor Putricide, and the Lich King have decided to go their own way, eschewing the control of the Burning Legion. But their first attack didn't go all that well. So, let's see how it goes in part 2, guys. Thanks for hanging out. This has been Lordaeron the Foremath, a Mass War map in Warcraft 3. Please check out the download in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.